high is 59. That sun carries into Saturday also. Beautiful with a high of 60. While on Sunday, it's a mix of sun and clouds. We'll stay dry. 60s are high temp. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk Media Network. Big Thursday night coming to you from the Dave & Buster's studios here in downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut and Pat Daniel. We are together tonight. Chris Bergen's off doing Coastal Carolina basketball. Speaking of basketball, USC women, top-ranked team in the country, at home tonight to take on Auburn. We met with Lamont Paris today. After we talked last night about not having a whole bunch of access, they set up a post-practice media session with him about an hour and a half ago. And he's quite a good talker, and he's completely different from Frank Martin in terms of how he deals with the media and what he says and how he delivers. And it's obvious he knows his hoops. If he can get some players at South Carolina, I think he'll win some ball games and be successful. They got a tough one coming up on Saturday afternoon against Tennessee. They got Tennessee and Kentucky back-to-back. Kentucky on the road on Tuesday. In Kentucky, they have struggled some this year, but they won their SEC opener. Tennessee won their SEC opener by over 30 against Mississippi State. Of course, the Gamecocks dropped theirs to Vanderbilt in overtime, a game they could have won. They had a lead late, but couldn't hang on. Lost it in overtime. So we'll have that for you. And, of course, last night, Clemson. Wow. Tigers now 4-0 in the ACC. Got to go back to 95-96 to find the last time the Tigers started 4-0 in ACC play. And last night they went to Virginia Tech against a good Virginia Tech team. Was missing one of its top players, but still, it's a good team playing at home. I believe they had a 9-game home court winning streak going. The Hokies, that is. And Clemson, they played pretty good basketball. They D'd them up. They held Virginia Tech to 27% shooting in the second half. Only 9 field goals for Virginia Tech in the second half. And Clemson shot the ball. They got off to a real hot start. And then from the foul line, when they had to, they made their free throws. Just a good, solid road win for Clemson. The Tigers sitting there 4-0 in the ACC. Now they go to Pittsburgh. If you had Clemson and Pitt at the top of the ACC standings 4 games in, both at 4-0, if you had that on FanDuel or MGM or whatever is or Bet Online or whatever is your favorite betting outlet, you've probably won a bunch of money if you cashed it in. I know I didn't see it coming. Pat, I doubt you saw it coming. I doubt anybody saw that coming. So kudos to Clemson. And they're playing a man short with Alex Hemingway dealing with plantar fasciitis, and he is out really indefinitely. Brad Brownell said last night they tried to get him to do some things. He did a little bit of stuff, but still not ready to go yet. So that's a terrific outside shooter that they're missing. We're going to hear from Brownell tonight. We're going to hear from Paris tonight. Going to take your phone calls as well. And that phone number, you should know. As a matter of fact, I had lunch today with the person for whom that phone number is named. If you can name a phone number after a person. I had lunch with Dr. Rick Sanford today, and he's doing extremely well. And so our phone number, 888-898-2525. For those of you who might be new to the show, the 2525 honors the jersey number of one Rick Sanford, as he was number 25 on your roster, but number 1 in your heart. So I had a good time with him. And we'll take your phone calls, 888-898-2525. That is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. A lot of things to talk about, beginning with news and update out of Cincinnati, where DeMar Hamlin continues to improve. Even his doctors now are going public and saying he is improving. Still critical. I mean, they don't want to get the proverbial cart before the horse here. Don't want to say anything out of school. Doctors are normally cautious when they talk publicly about the health of a patient, but they seem to be feeling very, very good about the way everything is moving in this particular case. So that is good news. The Bills went back to practice today for the first time. So that is good news. And we're going to have NFL football this weekend. So that is certainly good news. So that is a bright spot for this week after it started off as a dismal week. Then as far as things happening here in South Carolina, you've had 3 Clemson players announced today. They are returning to Clemson for the 2023 season, all on the defensive side. Remember that Dabo Swinney had hinted that he had some players who were going to be coming back. Of course, KJ Henry and Miles Murphy were 2 who have opted to depart and go ahead and try and get into the draft. In Murphy's case, I mean, he's going to be a first rounder. Not so sure about Henry. But the 3 Tigers announcing that they're coming back: Jalen Phillips, safety; corner Sheridan Jones; and defensive end Xavier Thomas. Now, this has got to be at least the 3rd time that Thomas has announced he's coming back, right? I can remember like several times he's announced that he's coming back to Clemson. And so, of course, he's had an injury ridden career at Clemson to this point. He really has not, well, first he was playing behind some very talented players when he got to Clemson, even though he was highly regarded. And then he's had to deal with the physical injuries. He's had to deal with some health stuff, going back to the COVID, and he's just had a variety of stuff that's, I guess, prevented him from playing at his full maximum. So now he'll get his chance because the Tigers have certainly thinned down at defensive end, and Xavier Thomas will get his chance to shine at one of the defensive end positions. I imagine that Maskell will be the other defensive end. You'd ride him in as a starter on the other side. And those aren't 2 bad defensive ends. They may have to carry more of the water, and that might not be a bad thing. Instead of having the defensive ends getting 20, 25 snaps, I mean, maybe you work these guys a little bit more, and they like it. They like getting 45, 50 snaps a game and getting a chance to make more tackles and more sacks. So that's good news on the Clemson defense. Now, some bad news on the South Carolina defense, and that is that Jordan Birch has entered the transfer portal, John. Actually, credit to J.C. Sherbert of the Big Spur, who told his readers sometime yesterday that he was told that Birch would not be coming back. And then today, the folks who monitor the portal, John, saw his name in there and put it out that he was in the portal, John. So Jordan Birch moving on to somewhere else. And I know this is frustrating, has to be frustrating for the Gamecock fan who just wonders why. Why? Why are you leaving? You got one more year that you could come and be eligible, play for your hometown team. You really haven't been the great player that people projected you to be, whether that's on them for being wrong or you for not doing enough. You can draw your own conclusion. He had a good year this year, not a great year. Started to come on a little bit. Did post his best numbers of his career, about 60 tackles, and he had some sacks and got some pressure on the quarterback. At times flashed his talent, which he does have. But, if you're South Carolina, it's like this guy, if you're Jordan Birch, you're in the SEC and you're at South Carolina and you're playing at home, and you just help the team get to a nice bowl game and show improvements. And look, I'm not in the heads of these people. None of us are. Who knows what drives them, why some leave, why some stay. It's an individual situation. Is there tampering involved? Does he have somebody in his ear saying you can go out here and make a whole bunch of money through NIL? Did South Carolina not pony up enough NIL? What is enough? This goes back to the greed aspect of the whole NIL process that college sports is now dealing with now. How much is enough for a player? You lay $200,000 at his feet through NIL opportunities, and he says that's not enough. I can go over here and make $500,000. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to come back with another $300,000? Does it become a bidding war? I mean, where is you're now a general manager instead of a football coach. Where do you cut it off? Where do you say, okay, that's our top offer? I mean, truly. And is that the case here? You know, I can't think of any other, just as an outsider, I can't think of any other reason why a kid would leave his hometown school and as a starter, as a chance to be a star next year. Truly, he has a chance to be a star next year in the SEC. Now, maybe he's going to transfer to another SEC school. You know, who knows? Maybe he's going to transfer to the Big Ten. Maybe he's going to transfer to the Pac-12. Maybe independent. Maybe he's going to transfer to Navy or to Notre Dame. I mean, who knows? But my point is, it's a hard thing to understand. I got to believe if you're just that rank and file Gamecock fan, he's like, you know, what the heck? What do we have to do in this particular case? You know, what do you have to do with Marshawn Lloyd, who still hasn't found a place to go yet? What do you have to do with some of these guys to keep them happy and to keep them in the nest, you know? And how much money do you have to pump out if that's what it is, if that's what it takes, you know? Or maybe he just didn't like it. Maybe he just didn't like it after 3 years. Maybe he wants to experience a change of scenery. Who knows? I tend to lean towards my first thought versus my second thought there. But anyway, we'll find out eventually what the deal is on that. But that's a loss for South Carolina. They've lost 3 defensive ends now. When you throw him in there and Gilbert Edmond and Hot Rod Fitton, I don't think Hot Rod was a huge loss. And Gilbert Edmond had improved and had given them something. Florida State certainly thinks if he ends up there, based on their media boys, that he's a primary target for Florida State in their transfer recruiting efforts. Be funny if he ends up at Florida State, he plays against Clemson again after playing against him for the Gamecocks. Of course, you had Jamie Robinson at Florida State playing at Clemson after playing against him as a Gamecock, and you had Justin Turnentine play against Clemson as a left offensive tackle after playing against him as a Gamecock. So
Oregon seems like another name to throw out there as well. Keep in mind, Oregon head coach Dan Lanning was one of the lead recruiters at Georgia when he was defensive coordinator there, and they were also one of the favorites. It came down to Georgia, South Carolina, LSU, and a couple others for Jordan Birch's services.
Mm-hmm.
Got to think that would certainly give them a change of pace, and they have all that Phil Knight money out there too.
Yeah, you know, people seem to think when it comes to NIL that everybody is rushing out to Oregon like they're the fountain of money. You know, just go to Oregon and they'll take care of you with their NIL money because they've got Nike. If that were the case, and that's a good place to go, and I don't disagree with you, you would think Maryland, with their Under Armour support from the owner of Under Armour, who's a Terp grad, a big fan, you know, you'd think people would be, carving a path up to College Park.
Oregon actually wins that's the difference.
Yeah, well, they did win. Maryland did win the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
They did. That's very true.
And then Loxley, come on, man, have some guts. I mean, how much preparation did he do for the Mayo bath? Right? Didn't he put on like a special shirt or something? I saw him taking off his top, and I think he was putting on and that big old goofy-looking hat that these coaches are now wearing. Have you seen those things? What are those things called?
That was smart.
Is there a name for those things?
He wore that big hat, and then I think he got guilted into taking it off because then he took it off and got kind of doused just like Coach Beamer a year ago.
Is there a name for that hat besides goofy-looking big hat? I mean, I've seen Beamer wear it in some of the recruiting pictures he's taken. It just, I don't know what the appeal of it is or what the purpose of it is, other than to draw attention to yourself, which is what you're doing in recruiting anyway.
It's called the Noggin Boss. It's based in Phoenix, and apparently it exploded on the scene after an NFL player wore one in a post-game interview.
Okay.
But that's about all.
The Noggin Boss.
The Noggin Boss.
Okay. I like it. All right. Phone number 888-898-2525. We'll hit the break and get into some phone calls. The South Carolina Education Lottery, a lucky number, 888-898-2525. And since 2002, More than $4.2 billion in lottery proceeds have been used to fund scholarships and grants for South Carolina students. Learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/educationwins. And playing for fun is a win for education. We'll be right back.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
When your day calls for some winning, why not watch your favorite football team at Dave & Buster's? We've got massive HD TVs and hundreds of the hottest new games. Sip from our chef-crafted cocktail menu with exclusive drinks such as the Strawberry Watermelon Margarita or Dangerous Waters. Cheer on the team with Cantina Nachos or wings featuring one of our 12 wings flavors. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can watch the games and play the games. Locations in Greenville, Columbia, and Myrtle Beach.
Hope, life, and the Great Palmetto. What do these things have in common? Scholarship dollars. The SC Hope, the Life, and the Palmetto Fellow Scholarships are funded by the lottery players of this great state. And after 20 years, you've invested over $7 billion in education. $7 billion. Impressive. The South Carolina Education Lottery. When you play, we all win.
Chris Beard fired today as the basketball coach at Texas after having an issue with the wife or girlfriend, had assault charges against him. I know she kind of stepped in there and tried to, his fiance, charges of assaulting his fiance going back a few weeks, allegedly strangling and biting her. Not good stuff at all. Fired for cause. According to CBS Sports, as such, he will not be entitled to any salary or buyout money. He had a 7-year, $35 million contract. So he's out of a job in Texas, a very lucrative and very much desired basketball coaching job is now open. And we'll see what happens with that moving forward. And let's see what else that we have. We told you about what was happening there with Cincinnati and the young man there. Everything seems to be doing well. Also, a story out this afternoon. This is from Dennis Dodd of CBSSports.com. That is that in talking about the college football playoff expansion, the working group had considered as many as 16 teams. 2 years from the debut of the 12-team playoff in the wake of the best CFP semifinals to date, there are those who want to see it go to 16, including Sonny Dykes. So maybe they aren't set on 12. If so, maybe not for long. But don't get caught up in what happened last Saturday. I mean, last Saturday was fantastic. 2 great games, 2 exciting games. Held everybody's attention to the very end. And thank goodness they did. But that's not a guarantee of future success in the semifinals. In fact, history will tell you that seldom do you get 2 really good games in the semifinals. So, once again, leadership being influenced by some things that might lead them down that wrong road. What makes you think you're going to have a bunch of games that are going to be really tight and exciting when you expand to 12 teams? You go to 16 teams. What makes you think, you know? I mean, as maybe in that opening round, because the team should be pretty well balanced, but when you have that next round and you've had a team sitting out and they are one of the top 4 teams, and you're a lower seeded team, and you've just come off a game, no telling what your injury situation is going to be. I mean, chances are they're going to be blowouts in that middle round. I would think a lot of blowouts, just because of the attrition effect, going through a football tournament. I mean, I think about NFL, and yeah, we do see teams that have to come up through the wild card round and play on the road, have some success in the NFL playoffs. I mean, there's been a number of Super Bowl winners who were wild card entries and had to play every week. I don't know. Can you compare the NFL talent with the college talent, though? An NFL guy goes down, yeah, you replace him with a lesser player, but, I mean, the drop-off probably not as great there as it is in college when you replace a starter with a backup, Just thinking out loud there. All right, phone number, 888-898-2525. Got some lines open. We'll hear from the basketball coaches tonight. We go to Gamecock Larry. First up with us tonight here on Sports Talk. Hello, Gamecock Larry. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm going to have to talk a little slow to make sure I get it straight. I got my research committee, got on that thing when we first heard going through yesterday. But Jordan Burch, he's in the transfer portal. We didn't believe he was going to go, but you know what? When Oregon come down and offer him $1 million for 1 year, now this is the thing. I mean, I don't blame the young man one bit. I wish him all the best.
Are you his accountant?
Sir, I got my transfer. No, I ain't his accountant, but I don't blame the young man one bit.
But I mean, you think he got $1 million offer from somebody?
He got $1 million offer, and I got my
sources.
I got my research committee, Gamecock Research Committee, headed by a medical doctor, well known with the VA, Dr. Macon. Well known.
Now the first thing, now Gamecock Larry, the first thing in reporting is you don't reveal your sources.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. I'm an old man, so I don't mind this.
Okay, all right.
They talk about.
Go ahead.
You talk about your
credibility.
You borrow money from somebody, and they say your credit, you're gonna lose your credit score or something.
Yeah.
I'm 88 years old. I don't need no credit.
There you go.
But now okay. He got $1 million offer to go play. He got 1 year left, and I guess that 1 year of COVID, but he won't stay that year.
Well, who offered him $1 million?
Well, Oregon. That's where he is going, and you watch and see. I guarantee you, that's where he's going.
Okay.
Henning, the coach of Oregon, he was one that recruited Burch hard for Georgia when he was a Georgia coach down there. He offered him $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was good. He was good. But what has he done? Really, he's not a really big star. 4.5 sacks in 3 years. That ain't worth $1 million. Just like Marshawn Lord, 1,000 yards in 2 years. That ain't worth a couple $1 million. Poor Marshawn still sitting out there. This guy bailed down there in Florida State. Got NIL money. He had one game. He had it in the Deuce Mayonnaise Bowl. I mean, but I wish them all the well. I wish them all better. But remember, I heard one of the guys there on the Gamecock said, who we got is all we need. That's all we need. Who we got is all we need.
You got that right.
And also, all these transfers, I think they was recruited by a man named Muschamp. So I ain't worried about Beamer. Beamer's going to be okay. Gamecock's going to be okay. I just hope I'm around to see it. We're going to be in the Final Four in 2024.
All right.
And that's
About
all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Gamecock Larry, who we now will call Deep Throat because of his inside sources there at the VA. Got a doctor with knowledge. $1 million. Do you believe that? You believe somebody would pay Jordan Birch $1 million for a year? We'll be back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cooler overnight with a low dipping down to 41. Tomorrow, another glorious day, just a little bit cooler than today. Sunshine, the high is 59. That sun carries into Saturday also. Beautiful with a high of 60. While on Sunday, it's a mix of sun and clouds. We'll stay dry. 60s our high temp. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
Hi, this is Jennifer Coolidge. The American Heart Association says the disco song Stayin' Alive is the near-perfect beat for hands-only CPR. If you see a teen or adult collapse from cardiac arrest, you only need 2 steps to help save a life. Call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest to the beat of the song Stayin' Alive. Disco is back and it's saving lives. To learn more, go to heart.org/hands-only-CPR.
Nationally supported by the WellPoint Foundation.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. For a long and frustrating third day, divided Republicans left the Speaker's chair of the U.S. House sitting empty Thursday as party leader Kevin McCarthy failed and failed again in an excruciating string of ballots to win enough GOP votes to seize the chamber's gavel. Pressure was building as McCarthy lost a 7th, 8th, and historic 9th round of voting, tying the number it took the last time this happened 100 years ago in a prolonged fight to choose a speaker in a disputed election. The South Carolina Supreme Court on Thursday struck down a ban on abortion after cardiac activity is detected, typically around 6 weeks, ruling the restriction enacted by the Deep South state, quote, violates a state constitutional right to privacy, unquote. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 339 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on The Point, join me, Chad Jordan, and my co-host Larry Jordan for the Palmetto Real Estate Pros. We'll help you out whether you're looking to buy, sell, or just learn all things real estate every Friday right here at 100.7 The Point.
People today, they could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have someone in your corner, right here in your community. That someone is AARP. Join us for free, fun, and informative virtual events like cooking demos, exercise classes, financial workshops, and more. It's never been easier to connect with your community. The younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/near-you.
It's January. It's 2023. A brand new year. Time for a brand new pet in your home. Columbia Animal Services invites you to bring home a brand new best friend for the new year. Time to visit petfinder.com to find that new puppy or kitty cat for your home. There's no better way to get 2023 started than to do so with an adoption special of just $23. Visit petfinder.com and get your new family member to start the new year. Happy New Year from Columbia Animal Services.
Hey, it's the Cigar Militia. We want to thank the Midlands for a wonderful first year. Thank you for helping us grow. We had no idea we had so many good friends out there. One thing I love about the cigar culture is we all have our favorite brands, but we're also willing to try new ones too. Come in and get your old standby or have one of our knowledgeable staff members walk you through the humidor to your new favorite. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard in the same plaza as the Melting Pot Restaurant.
Gas prices, grocery prices, inflation has hit us all, and it's caused the Fed to raise interest rates. As a result, after historically low mortgage rates for what seemed like forever, interest rates for a mortgage have jumped in recent months. Fran Halloran here. Let me make something clear to you. Mortgage rates are rising. They may continue to rise as the Fed tries to get a grip on inflation. What hasn't changed is the incredible customer service you'll get from Greg McCoy and Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Greg can't control interest rates. He can, however, control fees. With rates on the rise, now more than ever, you need to know you're getting the very best deal. Greg will make sure of that. He's more than just a mortgage guy. Greg McCoy is your trusted advisor. You might be surprised to learn how much Simplified Mortgage and Greg McCoy can do to help you with your biggest financial investment. Not sure? Have questions? Give Greg a call at Simplified Mortgage, 803-722-6044, or find him online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com. Greg McCoy, NMLS 119871.
Hit it. Go ahead and press it already. Press the damn button. What are you waiting for?
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornblut and Pat Daniel at your service tonight. We come to you from the Dave and Buster's studios right here in downtown Columbia. Remember to eat, drink, play, catch all the big games all season long. Dave and Buster's, Greenville, Columbia, Myrtle Beach. We'll have some recruiting for you coming up in a little bit. Been some action there. Gamecocks have sent out some offers, including a transfer wide receiver from Michigan, kind of a part-time player there. But you wonder what that means. Does that mean anything? Are they just looking to fill another receiver spot? Does this mean Antoine Wells has told him something? What does it mean when they do something like that? Probably just looking to add another quality receiver, somebody who they think is a quality receiver. And we'll also have an update on some other players we're following in the recruiting world, including Cam Pringle, who has cut his list down from 10 to 6. Tell you a little bit more about that if you don't already know. If you don't know, we're going to keep you in suspense for a little while. That's the fun of it. 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. Hank in Columbia, you are up next, sir. We thank you for making Sports Talk your choice listening at this moment.
Hey, Corn, how's it going?
You know, Hank, I ran across your Twitter page the other day. You don't look anything like you sound.
I don't know how you're supposed to look how you sound.
I thought you would be older, professorial looking.
I'm 53, Corn, so I'm not spring chicken.
Well, that can't be your picture on the.
You stay in the gym and work out. Don't drink all night.
Well, anyway, how are you?
You can look good at 53. I'm doing fine.
Yep.
But Corn, I don't know how. I kind of disagree in terms of whether that second round game in these playoffs would be pretty good, because you think about it, Corn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we like to say that there's a separation between teams, but if you looked at it this year and you looked at LSU and Alabama and Southern Cal and Utah and some of those teams on New Year's Day, and even with the top four, you put them in games with them, I think those would be some knockdown dragouts.
Well, then why don't we have knockdown dragouts in most of the semifinals we've had over the years of the CFP?
I think it's because it's been so small that you just had those issues. But you think about it, Corn.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Alabama lost twice on one last minute kick and a 2-point conversion. I don't think anybody wanted to see them in that 4th spot. I know Georgia didn't.
No, they didn't, for sure.
and then LSU, who played Georgia in their semifinal, they didn't look good against Georgia, but you imagine them playing in Michigan or someone. I think in many of these years, when they've argued about those teams 5 through 10 or 5 through 9, you get it in the playoff and everybody's strapping it up. Those could be some good games.
Well, now, I hear you. Let me ask you another question. You being the Gamecock supporter that you are, what's your reaction to Jordan Birch transferring out?
You know, I'm almost immune to it now.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear the rumor first, you say, "Well, it's going to happen." I think I'm like Beamer's
injury report. When you hear the rumor first, I lean to he's going, and then if something doesn't happen, then I'm all right with it. But you hate it because I think the kid. One thing I hated for the kid is if he goes out and he doesn't perform well, you sever a lot of ties when you're a hometown guy that could help you later in life for business beyond football. And I think that's going to be I think that's going to be an issue for some of these kids. You go out, you don't have this great year, but then you severed a lot of ties you built up. You imagine DeCarrion Jordan could get a job anywhere in Columbia the State when he finishes.
Well, I think you're right, because I think
start.
there's a lot of employers out there when DeCarrion Joyner sits down in front of them with his resume and they look at, first of all, how he is as a person. And secondly, especially if you own a business, you're a USC grad, you look out for other grads. You see what he did, the loyalty that he showed to the school, et cetera. You doggone right that weighs in his favor when it comes to getting a job. And, yeah, that's a very smart move on his part because it's – I mean, is he going to have an NFL career one day?
No,
maybe
no,
not. But
not.
It's a roll of the dice. It's maybe less than 50-50. He realizes that.
Yeah, and, he's made a lot of money being loyal because that's why, it's not like he's been the superstar as far as the NIL, but he's been loyal, so he's gotten a lot of NIL. And, they did a story on him the other day where he bought his first house through NIL money, but it was just from, sticking with it and being with the team. So I think with, that's the only thing you hope for Burch, that he has some success where he goes. But given the production, like somebody said earlier today, given the production, the 3.5 sacks and what he's done, Carolina may be able to replace that in the portal if they find the right person.
Or they might have the right person already there. I mean, I think of Brian Thomas Jr., who played some for him this year. I think he flashed some. He flashed some. He flashed some talent. Jordan Strawn, if he gets his waiver year, that will help. Certainly, he can come back. I don't see why he wouldn't get a waiver. The NCAA hands out waivers like the Girl Scouts hand out cookies. So I don't see why he wouldn't get one. So they might not be all that bad off, though. You hate to lose a player who gives you, some talent and gives you some depth and can be a good player. He got better each year. He got better each year. He was not. Let me just say something quickly. He was not a 5-star, whatever 5-star level happens to be. He was not. He was a good player. He was a good player who dominated weaker athletes. He dominated weaker athletes in a private school league, which is okay, but he was not that talent. But he's a good player who, with coaching, has gotten better each year, and he obviously has natural skills. He has speed. The one thing he has that you can't coach is the ability to run. So, yeah, he would have been a good, useful player at South Carolina. Is he going to go somewhere and make $1 million? Have you heard that? You heard our my inside report from Gamecock Larry, who got it from a doctor at the VA, which you can't beat that.
Well, I heard he was floated. Him or the mother was floated a big NIL deal out of Oregon. That's what I heard.
But I mean, if you're reading this on message boards and stuff, and I don't know where you're seeing it. I'm not saying that's where you got. But
it was indicated a little bit from JC's site.
Yeah. But my point is, a lot of that stuff is sour grapes. Yeah, he's leaving because he's getting $1 million. Oh, really? Somebody's going to pay him $1 million? I mean, what are you going to pay for a real ball player? $2 million? Is there any limit? What's the standard? What's the standard out there for paying these guys?
I don't know. I'll tell you something that Perry Orr said this morning. He said that a lot of these kids are getting hit with the bait and switch, where the school gets somebody that floats out and says, "Oh, I may get you $1 million in NIL or 500,000 in NIL," and it says the player gets out, hits the school, and then when they talk to the coach says, "Well, I'm not involved with NIL, so I don't have anything to do with it. We'll see how you play." But then they've already left there.
Well, that's just stupid. Then you're just stupid, and you deserve to get nothing. I mean, you're going to tell me you're going to leave a sure thing. I mean, you're going to leave a sure thing for a wish and nothing written in paper, nothing written on paper.
Well, they can't. What can they give them really in paper for? NIL is supposed to be something that you get when you get there. And you got to think about it.
I understand
Would Marshawn have left? Marshawn had left if he'd known it was almost 3 or 4 weeks later and he still didn't have a home?
Yeah. Would you think somebody reneged on him?
Yeah, I heard that there were back sources trying to tell, I guess, his people that he could go up there and get a lot of NIL money from Maryland. But then when he finally talked to the Maryland coaches said they were happy with their running back room.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So I mean, so who's being dumb here? The player but these players are old enough now. These are young men. They're
getting to the mamas. They're getting to the mama. Remember when Corey Miller said he went to school because he knew he couldn't get there any other way but to play football, right?
Yeah.
They're taking advantage of some of these family members with their greed now.
All right. Well, you know what? I guess South Carolina better up its game. You people need to kick in. You need to dig deeper, Hank. You got to come up with you're not paying enough. You got to go deeper.
Get the ones that, well, these all weren't originally recruited South Carolina by Beamer. So, so get the ones that are in and keep on building your culture. You don't have to worry about it.
Well, I can't. All right. Thank you very much. I can't believe anybody enjoys this. I mean, I don't enjoy talking about it, to be honest with you. I don't enjoy making fun of it. I can't believe coaches enjoy having to deal with it. And I don't know. I can't believe players enjoy it either because, I mean, I don't want to use the P word, but you know what I'm talking about. They're out there with their hands out looking for money every which way you turn. So who knows where this thing is going to lead, and players getting misled and, like Hank pointed out, getting left at the altar. Okay, they get to their new place, whatever, and the money's not there. He's right. I mentioned get it in writing. I know you can't get it in writing. You'd be investigated and busted and all that kind of stuff. But what kind of guarantees do you have? All you got's a man's word. Well, how good is a word when it comes to college sports? You have college coaches who take a guy's commitment, and then 5 days before signing day, they tell him he doesn't have an offer anymore. College coaches aren't worth their words either. Many of them you can't trust. Not saying all. So who can you trust? Who do you believe anymore?
One player out there who we're throwing around $1 million for Jordan Birch, one player today that announced where he's transferring to, ACC all-time leading touchdown thrower Sam Hartman from Wake Forest has committed to Notre Dame. And I can't help but go back to the comments from Mac Brown talking about his quarterback and the crazy high numbers that he was reportedly being offered, potentially tampering for him, talking about Drake May, for him to leave UNC and go somewhere else. Mac Brown would not name what schools he was talking about, but I can't help but wonder if those same schools didn't reach out to Sam Hartman, and makes me wonder a little bit about Notre Dame. Just saying.
I'm not in the position of a football coach, okay? But until you start naming names, and keep your mouth shut.
I'm with you. Loved last year when Pitt's head coach, he named Lincoln Riley in Southern Cal, talking about his star receiver, Adazio, however you say his name, talking about him last year, who did end up at Southern Cal.
Pat Narduzzi.
No, I was talking about the wide receiver.
Oh, the wide receiver was
Arduzio or something.
No. Yeah, terrific player. Ended up not playing in the bowl game for Southern Cal.
Jordan Addison. That's
Jordan Addison. Yeah.
And there were claims there, but Pitt's coach actually did name names. He specifically said Lincoln Riley.
Kudos to him.
Cal. Yeah.
Kudos to him. Well, the coach at UTSA, who did a heck of a job down there in Conference USA. I think they've won that league a couple of times. And he's a former high school coach. I think his name is Jeff Traylor, Traylor. And he sent a tweet. He added the NCAA. Is that how you call it? What you say? You add somebody? He sent a tweet to the NCAA asking, how do I deal with a Power 5 program that is trying to take two of my players who are not in the portal? And is there a rule for that? How do I deal with that? And then he was interviewed by, I think it was Dennis Dodd, or somebody interviewed him. And he said, he goes, there's a school, and I know who they are. I know who the coach is, and I don't want to say the name publicly, but they have offered my players who aren't in the portal, money to come to their school. And he's like, he was asked, why don't you put the name out there? And he goes, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that put the name out there. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's chicken. If you know and you want to get something done about it, you just can't Are you afraid you're going to be blackballed by the coaches fraternity if you do that? You'd be doing the game a favor is what you'd be doing. You'd be doing the sport a favor if more coaches would speak out and say, hey, this is wrong. Here are the people that are doing it. You might get a solution to this issue because it's a growing problem. The tampering's got to be rampant. And you can play it off on the high school coach or the personal trainer, but it's got to start somewhere. And it's got to start inside the recruiting office of another school, you know, and they let somebody know who let somebody know who let somebody know. And you might say that's not tampering, but it's tampering. Okay, it is. All right, got to hit the break here on Sports Talk. We will continue with your calls in a moment. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number. Oh, it's a great day. The PGA Tour is back. The Century Tournament of Champions out in Hawaii. Get to go home and watch primetime golf. Colin Morikawa, he's at 8 under as he plays the 18th. Mackenzie Hughes, J.J. Spawn. They are 7 under. Hughes is in at 7 under 66. Back in a moment.
Show your team pride wherever you go with Founders Federal Credit Union's collegiate debit cards. Get your University of South Carolina and Clemson University debit cards at any Founders office or by calling 1-800-845-1614. Plus, our debit cards are digital wallet ready, so you can pay however you please. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
Join the Trailblaze Challenge, the endurance hike program where big hearts come together for big steps to create hope for local Wish families through Make-A-Wish, South Carolina. This spring, take part in a new journey on the Palmetto Trail. From sunrise on the highest peak in South Carolina to the coastal marshes of the Lowcountry, hikers of all levels can support critically ill children, enjoy and explore the outdoors, and build South Carolina pride and community through an all-inclusive hike experience. Visit sctrailblazechallenge.org to learn how to get started. That's sctrailblazechallenge.org.
Clemson women are playing basketball tonight. USC women will play as well. They tip off a little bit after 7 against Auburn. USC and Auburn, USC number 1 team in the country. Clemson women, they're playing tonight against Florida State. And they've had a good start, 11-4. I think they're 2-1 in the ACC. Getting hammered tonight, 44-26 at Florida State. Florida State's really good, of course, 14-2, 3-0 in conference. Clemson, 11-4, 2-1 in conference. And we've got Coastal Carolina underway against Happy App up in Boone. Chris Bergen on the call up there. Good start for the Shots. 22-15, they lead. 8:51 to go in the opening half. Of course, they had a chance to be 2-1 in the Sun Belt. I'm sorry, 2-0 in the Sun Belt. They lost a game to Georgia Southern that they were leading the other day after opening up with a nice win against Louisiana, the team that's, according to Chris, probably the best team in the league this year. And Coastal got a nice win on them to open up the season in Sun Belt Conference play. We continue with your phone calls. 888-898-2525. By the way, we appreciate the folks who are listening to us on our various streams on Facebook, on YouTube, on our Twitter feed as well. And, of course, the audio stream at SportsTalkSC.com. Anytime you can't get us over one of our radio stations, that's how you can find us. We appreciate you going there and listening to us that way. So we continue with your calls. And next up is going to be Scott in Orlando. Hello, Scott. Welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, doing well. Got a couple questions for you, and then I want to hold on and listen to them.
Sure.
First one is, what do you think? Is there a problem at South Carolina with all these players leaving? Is it money? Is it culture? What's going on? That's thing number one. Are we going to be a feeder school? Do we not have enough money? That's question number one. Question number two is, that athlete, that 5-star athlete in Washington, D.C., do you think he's going to come to South Carolina? And why would he, number one? And what position do you think he'll play, tight end or defensive end?
Yeah.
I'll hang on and listen.
Well, he's going to play tight end because he said that's what he wants to play. So he's definitely going to play tight end. Talking about Nicholas Harbor. And, look, South Carolina's impressed him. They've recruited him hard. They've showed him the love. They've showed him everything they have to offer. He's been there several times. I think his parents like it. You got Maryland, the backyard school. Michigan has been on him hard as well. Michigan's Michigan. If things settle down with Jim Harbaugh, they'll be tough. As long as there's rumors of Harbaugh leaving for the NFL. Now, he's tried to shoot those down. That could be a problem for them. Plus, there was a story today about the NCAA, and this was more than it actually is, a story about some minor infractions the NCAA is going to charge Michigan with tomorrow when they get their letter of intent. So it looked bad. The headline looked bad, but then the actual story said minor infractions. So the headline was a little bit more than what the meat of the story was. But Michigan, and then you've got Oregon. He's going to visit Oregon in January before he signs on February 1. And, look, if you're a big track guy, which he is, there's no better place for track than Oregon. That's the home of track. That's Steve Prefontaine and all that, and the big track stadium and the Olympic trials and everything else out there, plus Nike and everything that goes into it out there. Shoot. If he's not afraid to go across the country, Oregon will be hard to beat here because track is, of course, a huge part of his decision process as well. And look, South Carolina is no different than anybody else, losing players that leave you scratching your head. Arkansas has had 26 players to leave their program since the end of the season. 26. Imagine that. Imagine 26 players opting out for either transfer or the NFL. And for whatever reason, I don't know, but they're jumping ship there at Arky. But South Carolina is no different than most anywhere else. They haven't been hit that hard in terms of the big numbers, but because they're a team that's not necessarily deeply talented, when you lose a player, a starter in particular, or a contributor, it does hurt because you need every player on board who can come back and has eligibility and can play. You need every player. And if South Carolina loses a Spencer Rattler, let's say, and Wells, if those two leave, then all of a sudden, a promising 2023 becomes a big question mark because now you're back to square one when it comes to your quarterback situation.
Phil, could part of it also be as simple as programs that are on the rise getting better? At the end of the year, you're going to have end-of-year evaluations between players and coaches, and sometimes you just have hard decisions. Maybe, I'm not saying this happened, but maybe you have a coach sit down and say, look, we appreciate everything you gave us this year, but now we've got a couple of real promising recruits that played behind you. They were freshmen this year. We want to move on next year with them as the starter. And I want to go ahead and tell you now so that I can be upfront and honest with you, and now you get to make the choice. Do you want to come in and keep working hard and try to take that starting job back, or now is the time to leave if you want to leave and go somewhere else? And sometimes just a program on the rise. Look how many successful players this year Coach Beamer was able to use from the portal. Well, now he's starting to get in his guys. Maybe he doesn't need that as much. And I just feel like right now it might just be some very hard conversations happening.
That's a good point. That's always the case. You sit down at the end of a year, you have player-by-player meetings. You discuss where the player is within your program, what your expectations are, what your hopes are. And if you're honest and frank, you might say, hey, might be a good time for you to look somewhere else. You're not going to get a chance to play here. That's a very good point. When you look at the players who've left South Carolina, I doubt that was the conversation with Birch or with Lloyd, because it sounds like they kind of did this, like in the case of Lloyd, as Beamer pointed out, he went home for the holidays. Next thing he knows, he's transferring. He's in the portal. Same thing here with Birch. I don't know that they'd have that conversation with Edmond because he was a player for them. Maybe Fitton probably saw that he wasn't going to play very much. I'm trying to think of some of the others. There's quite a few others who have moved on for one reason or another. Well, you got the guys that went on to the NFL. So, yeah, I think in some cases you're probably right. I don't know that it's widespread like that, though.
Right. And I did not mean to insinuate that. More so just Gamecock fans, I would not think the sky is falling right now. If anything, I may take this as a good sign that you might have better players behind these guys, and that's why you're seeing these departures. Just a thought.
All right, that's good thought, and we appreciate the phone call. USC's Board of Trustees has an impromptu meeting tomorrow. One thing on the agenda, approval of athletics contract. Singular, not plural. Does that mean one contract? Approval of athletics contract. Meeting starts at 4 o'clock. Yeah, they usually like to spend a lot of their money on a Friday afternoon. So that way they can get out of town ahead of the posse because they've spent your money. And probably going to give a boost to the head coach, I would imagine. Top of the hour break. We will be back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Kevin McCarthy loses his 9th bid to become House Speaker. Capitol Hill reporter Bernie Bennett has an update.
Representative Kevin McCarthy appears to have fallen short for a 9th time in his quest to be Speaker, and a few of the votes changed since previous ballots. The preliminary top-line numbers were mostly the same as the previous votes on Thursday and all 3 Wednesday. McCarthy garnered 200 votes, 20 Republicans voted for someone else, and 1 voted present. He had gotten 201 votes on previous ballots. 1 Republican hasn't voted. This means the House will need to move to a 10th Speaker ballot for the first time since before the Civil War. Bernie Bennett at the Capitol.
There's encouraging news on the condition of the NFL's Damar Hamlin. Correspondent Shelley Adler reports.
3 days after suffering cardiac arrest during the Bills game in Cincinnati, Buffalo safety Damar Hamlin is making progress. Dr. Timothy Pritz is a trauma surgeon at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center.
There has been substantial improvement in his condition over the past 24 hours. We had significant concern about him after the injury and after the event that happened on the field, but he is making substantial progress.
Hamlin's agent, Ronald Butler, told the AP that the Bills' safety was awake and had been able to grip the hands of family members at his hospital bedside. I'm Shelley Adler.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday ordered his armed forces to observe a unilateral 36-hour ceasefire in Ukraine this weekend for the Orthodox Christmas holiday, the first such sweeping truce move in the nearly 11-month-old war. Kyiv indicated it wouldn't follow suit. Putin did not appear to condition his ceasefire order on Ukraine's acceptance. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 339 points. The Nasdaq dropped 153. More on these stories at townhall.com.
See, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge. But it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE. Flash commercials.
Democrat Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan has announced she'll retire rather than seek re-election in 2024.
Stabenow says, inspired by a new generation of leaders, she has decided to pass the torch in the U.S. Senate. Her departure increases the advantage for Republicans in their hopes of reclaiming the Senate majority. The GOP has only 10 seats up for re-election in 2024, all in states considered safe for Republicans. Democrats will have to defend 23 seats, including 3 held by independents that caucus with the Democrats. Stabenow chairs the Senate Agriculture Committee. She says she'll work hard to update and pass the Farm Bill, which expires this year. Bob Agnew, Capitol Hill.
In a related story, Pennsylvania Democratic Senator Bob Casey has announced that he has prostate cancer. He says the news came as a shock, but that he has an excellent prognosis and that he's expected to make a full recovery. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cooler overnight with a low dipping down to 41. Tomorrow, another glorious day, just a little bit cooler than today. Sunshine, the high is 59. That sun carries into Saturday also. Beautiful with a high of 60. While on Sunday, it's a mix of sun and clouds. We'll stay dry. 60s are high temp. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point. Ooh, you shouldn't have pressed that button. Oh. Now you get this.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
We are back with you on Sports Talk. For those of you just joining us, you missed one hell of a first hour, but you can go back and hear it all. You know, every show is in podcast form for you. And all you got to do is go to where we keep our podcast. You can hear it on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. We put a new show there every night. The show that was just aired will be on the website every night. Or you can go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and that's where you can find our show in podcast form, plus all the elements of the show, interviews and the like, recruiting report, all that goes in podcast form as well. So when you're out taking that walk or doing that swim, or if you like to listen to something while you're playing golf, you got your little headset on, you can listen to any of that and catch up on everything with us from Sports Talk. In fact, if you've missed a show or missed a series of shows, you can go back and find every one of them at those locations. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also the Google spot. What's the Google spot for podcasts? Google Podcast? I don't know. It goes there as well. So feel free to check it out. We invite you to do so. And anytime you can't find us over the airwaves, you can find us streaming on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter, and the audio stream on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. Another transfer has found a home. This is former South Carolina quarterback, and he actually identifies himself as a USC alum, Jason Brown. So Jason Brown, who started out up in Pennsylvania, an FCS program, transferred to South Carolina for a year, did some nice things for the Gamecocks, don't forget, then transferred to Virginia Tech, where I don't think it worked for him, and now he's headed to Jackson State. So keep looking until you find something that you like. What makes you happy? I guess playing time makes you happy, and maybe this will be the right spot for him. And of course, he doesn't have, Jackson State now is probably going to lose a good bit of its luster now that Deion has moved on to Colorado. Let's face it. Of course, Deion did a great job at Jackson State. He made Jackson State kind of a national name at that level, though he couldn't beat the MEAC champion in the Celebration Bowl. But we'll see how Jackson State can maintain that. And they've lost a lot of players now, many of whom have moved on to Colorado with their former coach. A few other notes to pass along, and then we'll get back to your phone calls. 888-898-2525 is the number. Coastal Carolina announced its football schedule for the upcoming season. As Chris had mentioned here previously, they're going to open the season at UCLA next September in the Rose Bowl. How cool is that to get to play in the Rose Bowl? That'll be a lot of fun. I know Chris will enjoy that trip. So they've actually announced the opponents, not necessarily all the dates. So here is what it looks like. The home games, 6 home games, non-conference contest against Jacksonville State, coached by Rich Rod. How about that? Rich Rodriguez. That'll be cool. Duquesne. Well, they actually have dates on those two. Jacksonville State, September 9, Duquesne, September 16th, and then Sunbelt games against Marshall, James Madison, Georgia State, and Texas State at home. And the road games, UCLA, September 2nd, Army, November 18th. Now, if you're Coastal Carolina, you can't do much better than that for road trips outside your league, to go to UCLA and the Army to play in the Rose Bowl. And let's see, Army, that is that Mickens Stadium? I want to say Mickens.
Michie Stadium.
Michie Stadium.
think
They
I'm
say that
pronouncing
is
that
one of the most beautiful places in the country, especially in November. That is, they say it's one of the most beautiful places in the country to watch a football game, especially in the fall. And then their non-conference road games will be Appalachian State, Old Dominion, Georgia Southern, and Arkansas State. So that's pretty cool.
And Phil, that opening game at UCLA, not only is it just cool because it's at the Rose Bowl, all the history there, I think we're both a little jealous. Chris will be out there for that. But also, you're talking about what will potentially be a top 10 UCLA team coming in next year. Chip Kelly has really got them moving in the right direction now. And so that'll be a heck of an opening opponent, bringing in a new coaching staff and all.
Tough way for Tim Beck to open things up, but he will have one of the nation's best quarterbacks at his disposal, who will have one of his top receivers back. So that's a start. Pete Themmel reporting today, Tennessee's promoting Joey Hazel to become the new offensive coordinator. He was a quarterback coach and has worked with Heupel for 15 years. Of course, he lost his OC to become the head coach at USF, I think it was. Or was it UAB? I think it was USF. USC pitcher Will Sanders named the perfect game preseason All-American second team, 7-3, 3.43 last year. Gino Auriemma, who has been out for health reasons at UConn, remains out. He announced today he's still not healthy enough to return, and he is focusing on getting his strength back. He said he thought he was ready to return, but he needs more time. Going to take a step back to focus on his health. He's missed 3 games this season while feeling unwell. His replacement, Chris Daly, and she is 16-0 when coaching for Auriemma, and they are 12-2 on the season to this point. Pete Yanity from Channel 7, better known around here as Pete Yanitator. Should I not call him that, Pete Yanitator? Is that insulting?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him. I think he might like it. That's a pretty good nickname.
Well, you know where it comes from, right?
I don't actually. I'd love to know.
Oh, well, Yanity.
Sure.
And, you know, Gamecock fans, they call Clemson fans taters.
Ah, the Yanitator.
And so he was the voice of the Tigers, thus he is Yanitator. That's just my little picking at Pete. He's not really a Clemson homer anymore.
That's a fun little nickname, though. I like it.
I like it. I think it fits. I pride myself on handing out nicknames. Anyway, he reported this afternoon that Westside has hired Brian Lane as their new head coach, replacing Scott Early, who, of course, stepped down to take over as the executive director of the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association. Lane is a former Burns quarterback. He's also been the head coach at South Florence, Woodruff, Burns, and Clover, and he's done well pretty much everywhere he's been. Also heard Bobby Bentley's name kind of thrown there in the mix there at Westside for a while. I wonder if Bobby Bentley, now that, you know, it's not at USF anymore, I wonder if he wants to get back into high school coaching here in South Carolina. That would be kind of interesting. And our poll question of the week is still live. You got a day to vote if you haven't already. Clemson, is it still elite? Do you still consider the Tigers an elite program? 1,420 votes, 67.7% say no. 32.3% say yes. Well, the Tigers will they'll have their work cut out for them next year, or this year, next season, because I think some of the teams around them are getting better, you know, Florida State in particular. Looks like Brennan Armstrong, according to reports, is most likely going to transfer to NC State from Virginia. So that gives NC State a quality quarterback to replace a quality quarterback who transferred to Kentucky. That's crazy. Crazy. Wake Forest has lost Sam Hartman to Notre Dame, so they'll have to come up with another quarterback. But I think Clemson has the most to be concerned about Florida State in their own. Well, there is no division. I got to get used to that. So they got to get. Yeah, that's right. There is no division. So Florida State, I think North Carolina, if they fix their defense now, Phil Longo has left North Carolina, the offensive coordinator, to go to where's he going? Michigan? No, Wisconsin. He's going to Wisconsin.
Yep, that's right, Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's going to Wisconsin. So they lost their OC. But they got a great quarterback to start with and other good parts, but their defense has been atrocious. Can they fix their defense, make them more competitive from a defensive standpoint? Duke. Is Duke going to follow up and be another 8-9 win team next year? Miami, you got to be worried about Miami with the talent they are accruing through so many different avenues. Who else? Virginia, is Tony Elliott going to get it going there? Probably not. Virginia Tech doesn't look real promising right now.
I'm going to throw Louisville in the mix, Corn. I really like their coach, Jeff Brom, coming over from Purdue. And not only him, but also he's bringing his former quarterback, Jack Plummer, son of longtime NFL quarterback Jake Plummer. They were together 3 years in Purdue before Plummer transferred elsewhere. Turns out the grass was not greener. So now the two of them are going to meet up in Louisville. And they had quite the offensive connection together in Purdue. Just saying.
Yep. Update from the USC women, 19-7, USC over Auburn late in the first quarter. Looks like Boston's come to play tonight. She's got 7 and 4, and Saxton has 6 for the Gamecocks, who are obviously off to a pretty good start shooting the basketball. 60%, 9 of 15. They've clamped down on Auburn. Auburn is 3 of 16 from the floor. By my calculus, that comes out to 19%. Actually, I'm reading that off the stat sheet. I couldn't figure that out that quickly. You probably could, Pat. You have a mind for numbers. I don't. Back to the phones, 888-898-2525. Let's go to John in Lexington. Next with us here on the program. Hello, John. How are you? Good to have you with us.
Good evening, Phil. I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit. So I'm a rare Clemson fan who cares more about the outcomes of the men's basketball team than I do football. So I'm calling you to asking you, are you buying this team yet?
Man, you're a Clemson fan that prefers the best. Did you get hit in the head as a child or something? What happened?
No, I spent my 4 years there as a manager with the team.
Oh, gotcha. Do I think they're for real? I tell you, they've looked good. I'm trying not to be that guy that jumps on the bandwagon here all of a sudden. But here's what's happened. All of a sudden, football's over, so we start paying attention to basketball more, and you look up, and here's Clemson at 4-0. And look, they've deserved all those wins. They're playing the Brad Brownell style of defense. They're shooting the lights out, especially from 3. P.J. Hall is a terrific player, and he's healthy now and able to give them everything that he's got to give. Hunter Tyson is playing like an all-ACC first-teamer. He had another big night. He's had 7 double-doubles this season. Chase Hunter is giving them terrific play from the point guard spot. What you've got right now is an accumulation of players all playing at their best at the same time. That's how you have this kind of a start. Everybody's playing well, playing together, and playing pretty much at their best.
Well, because we got 2, I would say, inexplicable losses.
Well, the loss to South Carolina came,
and the loss to Loyola in Atlanta, and they have a losing record.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, am I buying into this start in the conference? I get too emotionally involved with this team, so I've stepped back the last few years and say, okay, I'm not going to get all hyped up when we win a couple of games. I want to see this. Is this for real? Because as much as I love defense, Brad Brownell's offense is just going to put you to sleep most of the time.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be scoring 80 points, but when a lot of times we're taking that shot clock down and all we've done is throw it around the perimeter for 28 seconds, and all of a sudden it's 7 seconds left. Oh, we got to throw up a 3, and it's been Brick City.
Yeah. But they're shooting it,
except for this year.
They're shooting it a heck of a lot better from 3, and the addition of Galloway, the transfer from Boston College, that certainly helps from the 3-point shooting standpoint. He's a terrific 3-point shooter, and I think that when they get Hemingway back, that's his strength. Tyson's an excellent 3-point shooter for a guy his size. Chase Hunter's improved his shooting. They're getting good play right now from R.J. Godfrey, who's played a good bit for them as a true freshman. So, I think they've got the makings of a really good club here. They stay healthy, keep it together, follow the coach's principles, which the best Brownell teams won first on defense. They were physical, and they could shut you down, and they could take away something from you. And they did that last night with Virginia Tech. They took away, well, to some degree, the 3-point shot in the second half because VT only made 9 shots in the second half. I think 4 of those were 3-pointers, but still they limited their shooting percentage to 27%.
Well, I know we got another road game before we come back home, so I think I heard you say last night was Duke.
No, they go to Pitt. They got Pitt
Saturday,
and then
we got
Duke
at home.
We got Duke at home next Saturday. You got a game at home
Louisville
midweek. Louisville,
Saturday,
yeah. So you got a 9:00 Wednesday game against Louisville, and then a afternoon game next Saturday against Duke. So the Pitt game will be big. Pitt's very good this year. They've turned it around. They're a surprise, just like Clemson is, sitting atop the ACC at this point. So that should be a good game. But I think it's one, certainly if Clemson plays the way they've been playing, they'll be in it and will have a chance to win.
And Phil.
And Miami, by the way, Miami went down last night. Miami lost for the first time last night to Georgia Tech. So here's a 4-0 Miami losing to an 0-3 Georgia Tech in the league. So you never know. You never know. That's why you got to bring it every night. So right now, Clemson and Pitt stand alone atop the league at 4-0.
Well, we'll see how the rest of the season goes, but I'm cautiously optimistic. But I'm not going to get too involved yet. I've been let down way too many times.
Yep. Well, listen, give them halfway through the season, see where they stand at the 10-game mark, and then you can decide how you want to play it out the second half of the season.
Yep. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your phone call. Sorry, Pat.
No, don't be sorry. It's okay. I was just going to add, after Pittsburgh will be a tough matchup on the road. They're 11-4. Louisville looks like a very winnable game. They've been struggling this year. Duke, you have them at home, but it's still Duke.
But they got drilled last night by
NC
State.
State. They did. And then the next 3 games after that, though, are teams you've already beaten. Wake, Virginia Tech, and Georgia Tech. And you've already beaten all 3 of those in the early slate. The Tigers could easily be 8-2 and sitting near the top going into that road trip at Florida State and Boston College. If you're a Tiger fan out there, I don't think you could have dreamed of a better start.
Yeah, and nothing to fear there from Florida State and Boston College, even though it's on the road. They haven't been great this year. But again, just like we said, Georgia Tech off to an 0-3 start, beats a 4-0 Miami last night. So you got to bring it every night. Okay, let's go to the break, and we'll continue with your calls. Also, comments from Brownell and from Paris and the recruiting report coming up. We tell you in the second quarter, it's the USC women leading Auburn 26-9. Gamecocks are shooting 65%. And Boston's got 7 and 4, and she's on the bench now. And Saxton's got 6. Cardoza has 4. Beal has 5 for the Gamecocks, who are kicking the Tigers of Auburn. Back in a moment.
Touchstone Energy Cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
When your day calls for some winning, why not watch your favorite football team at Dave & Buster's? We've got massive HD TVs and hundreds of the hottest new games. Sip from our chef-crafted cocktail menu with exclusive drinks such as the Strawberry Watermelon Margarita or Dangerous Waters. Cheer on the team with Cantina Nachos or wings featuring one of our 12 wing flavors. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can watch the games and play the games. Locations in Greenville, Columbia, and Myrtle Beach.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
All right, update some other basketball. The Clemson women playing down in Tallahassee. It's not going well. 61-47 Seminoles. That's late in the third quarter. Meantime, up at Boone, Coastal Carolina and Appalachian State, they are at the half. Coastal had the lead. They don't have it any longer. They are down 29-28 as they are at halftime, but it's still a tight ball game. And for Coastal Carolina, just taking a look at their scoring at this point, they are being led by Abraham, who's got 8, and Nichols, who's got 5 at this point. As we go back to your phone calls, we welcome in Tiger Bryan. Is it Tiger Bryan once again? Tiger Bryan, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm gonna be politically correct tonight.
All right,
okay?
Yeah.
Y'all guys. I don't know what did y'all draw hats where you pull this question out? Where y'all about Clemson being a lead or whatever. I mean, how y'all come up with that?
I usually on a Sunday night I open up a bottle of whiskey. I take about 2 or 3 shots, and then I come up with the question.
Okay. All right.
And it's good whiskey. It's right off. It's bourbon right out of right there on the Bourbon Trail between Lexington and Louisville, freshly distilled.
You crazy. All right, but listen, I'd rather Dabo do what he does, get the Roy bus back out. Because, hey, we've been winning all these years with hardly no transfers. You got these other teams, South Carolina, and these other teams, Tennessee. All of them. The transfer Porter John, as you call it, which I believe the same way, brother. I'd rather wait on my players develop. And hey,
All right, let me put it to you this way, though. This is a way you'll understand it, Tiger Bryan. You're a NASCAR fan, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you're a NASCAR fan, and all these years in NASCAR, going back, let's say a few years, all these years, you ran on you used Goodyear Eagles or Goodyear tires, and they were what would you call them? Your regular tires or double ply, whatever they were called back then. Then all of a sudden, they passed a rule that says you could run on radial tires. And that, of course, increased the speed. But you, being stuck in your ways and liking what you had been doing, stay with your old tires. And the analogy I'm trying to create here, I know it sounds kind of stupid, but everybody else is going faster, but you're sticking with your old tires. Everybody else is on radials, and you're on the others, and they're all passing you. And so my point is, this is available to everybody. And you can't blame anybody for doing it. It's all legal. It's all the way the game is being handled today, being played today. And my point is Clemson going to get left behind because they didn't change with the times? South Carolina, Florida State, you name them, Alabama, Georgia, almost everybody is participating openly in taking transfers to help their roster, to get better players. And, Clemson hasn't done so yet. And my question was way back, is it going to catch up with Clemson eventually?
Yes, it will. But that's where, like you said before, the transfer Porter John and the NIL has ruined college football, has it not?
Well, I'm not going to say it's ruined it yet, because look at the TV ratings from the playoffs, record-setting ratings. People are still watching. People are still buying the tickets. People are still putting their money into the collectives. They're participating. Is it going to ruin eventually? I don't see how it's sustainable myself. I don't see how it's sustainable over the long term. Right now, It hasn't, I don't think, ruined it. It's made it different. It's changed a lot of, everything about the way the players are handled. I don't see how it is sustainable, however. And but I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what it's going to look like 5 years from now. I don't know what laws are going to be passed or what rules or what form the NCAA, if there is an NCAA, whatever organization is overseeing college football. I don't know what that's going to be and what form it's going to take.
I just want to say one thing. I'm glad the guy from the Buffalo Bills, he's doing better. I read today.
Yeah.
I prayed for him every night. Hey, 'cause I mean, them kids growed up playing football their life, and just start to have a good career, and it's bam, happens to them.
Well,
it's sad.
All right.
We love to watch them play. You know what I mean?
Yep. But let's remember one thing. Let's wait for the full cardiological report. Did the hit cause it, or was there something that we don't know about in his health?
Point weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cooler overnight with a low dipping down to 41. Tomorrow, another glorious day, just a little bit cooler than today. Sunshine, the high is 59. That sun carries into Saturday also. Beautiful with a high of 60. While on Sunday, it's a mix of sun and clouds. We'll stay dry. 60s our high temp. I'm Kevin Cohen with your On Point local weather.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes,
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting for a long and frustrating third day. Divided Republicans left the Speaker's chair of the U.S. House sitting empty Thursday as Party Leader Kevin McCarthy failed again and again in an excruciating string of ballots to win enough GOP votes to seize the chamber's gavel. Pressure was building as McCarthy lost 7th, 8th, and then historic 9th and 10th rounds of voting, surpassing the number it took the last time this happened 100 years ago in a prolonged fight to choose a speaker in a disputed election. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered his armed forces to observe a 36-hour unilateral ceasefire in Ukraine this weekend for the Orthodox Christmas holiday. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 339 points. The Nasdaq dropped 153. More details at srnnews.com.
Loyalty is an important quality, but it's not a given. It's earned. Shooter's Choice has earned the loyalty of people around the Midlands because they have great customer service, tremendous selection, and they've been the local guys for more than 30 years. And that should matter to you. If you're looking for the right firearm, ammo, AR accessories, even a gun safe, visit the folks at Shooter's Choice on Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. This is where you'll find the experts, the folks that actually shoot, they hunt, or visit a big box store where you'll never see the same person twice, where their only expertise comes from watching some YouTube video. Shooter's Choice has the top brands. They offer classes to make sure you develop proper safety technique and skills. Most of all, they offer the best quality products at fair prices sold by good local people. If you can't make it to the store, you can visit online, shooterschoicesc.com. They're also on Facebook and Instagram, or they're waiting for you at 944 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Hi, honey. How was your first day back at work?
Well, that slip and fall sure did cause me some pain and discomfort. And this swollen ankle is no fun. Thanks to True Pharmacy, the day wasn't a complete waste.
I'm so glad they were able to get you all set up with your ACE bandage wrap and even a set of crutches.
Yes, who knew you could rent your crutches from True Pharmacy?
And they even have wheelchairs to rent and sell. That's good information to know in case we ever need it for our parents as they get older.
I'm so glad we found True Pharmacy. True Pharmacy, 2 locations, West Columbia and Divine Street.
Everyone seems to be hiring these days, but are they good jobs where there's potential for growth? What about on-the-job training and competitive wages, including health insurance and a 401k plan? Professional Printers is looking for their next star. They're a local printer with 2 locations, 130 employees, and a national clientele. If you've got a good attitude, want to learn some great skills, and work in a positive environment, reach out on proprinters.com or apply in person at 301B Greystone Boulevard.
Look out, world, we're getting strong. The future's here and we belong. Like build a rocket and launch it soar. Clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, so can you find a cure, invent something new. There's no challenge in the world that she can't face. She can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
All right, let's catch you back up on some things here on Sports Talk. 38-15, USC women leading Auburn, 4:43 to play in the opening half. And balanced scoring for the Gamecocks. Everybody has scored who has gone in except for 2 players. So it's balanced. Boston's got 7 still in 10 minutes. And Saxton's got 6. Cardoso's got 6. That's the top for the Gamecocks. 64% shooting. They're 14 of 22, 2 of 5 from 3, 8 of 8 from the line. They have forced 4 turnovers. They've turned into 7 points, winning on the boards 19-11. So Gamecocks are on their way to another big win, 40-15 over Auburn. And let's see, checking on that Coastal Carolina Appalachian State game up at Boone, 44-40. Appalachian now leading Coastal Carolina, 14:34 to go in the half. Ohio State is leading Purdue in the Big Ten, 26-14 first half. And that's it, some of the basketball that's going on. You want to mention, you got that story on Michigan football real quick? You have that in front of you?
Yeah, sure. So let's see here.
It seems to be much to do about nothing. You know, I'm scanning through Twitter this afternoon, and one of the national reporters puts out a tweet about Michigan going to receive notice of allegations from the NCAA, and you go, oh, there you go. Oh, my, here we go. And then what? What was it?
The Michigan football program has been under NCAA investigation. They expect to receive a notice of allegations by Friday. So, yes, the headline there is they try to scare you, lure you in. But then it says, source says it's relatively minor infractions, but investigation also centers on the program's response. So this is where it could get a little dicey potentially. One of the allegations includes an analyst coaching the players on the field when they're not supposed to do that. And another involves text messages that would violate NCAA rules. But one thing that's sticking out to me here, so the NCAA has a new strict liability language that went into effect January 1st. What this does is it holds head coaches responsible for violations within their program, regardless of their knowledge, involvement, monitoring of staff, or promoting an atmosphere of compliance. That's different from in the past, where coaches could basically just pretend or claim that they had no involvement. This assistant acted on their own, blah, blah, blah. But what takes another step here is all the rumors, including locally with the Panthers. David Tepper admitted he reached out and spoke with Jim Harbaugh over the phone about potentially coming to the Panthers to coach. If Harbaugh is no longer coaching in college, he would not be subject to any potential sanctions. If he is still the coach at Michigan, he could face penalties. But back to your point, this sounds like a whole lot of kind of minor infractions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, there you go with that. But, I mean, why is the NCAA concerned about text messages now? And why are they concerned about analysts coaching on the practice field? And who monitors that? You know, who turned them in? Who knew that an analyst was working with a player? You know, where does that come from?
So I left that part out. Sorry. The sources who have knowledge of the investigation have confirmed that these were self-reported violations, specifically the one about the text messages and the one involving an analyst coaching players on the field. But even there, if you're a coach, I mean, you talk about, we hear all the time, keeping stuff in the locker room, keep it in the building. Do you have a traitor in your midst that's turning you in? Or is this as simple as like a compliance officer that's their job is to do that? Or how did that word get from Michigan to the NCAA?
You know, it's a crazy, crazy world we live in when a college can pay players millions of dollars and they're still worried about an analyst working with a guy on the field, or they're worried about what? The number of text messages that you're doing or when you text message. I mean, come on. It's ludicrous. That's why it's a system that's bound to fail. You know, sooner or later, it's bound to fail. And we're seeing it. The cracks in the organization, and the Supreme Court, of course, lowering the heavy shot to them a couple of years ago, kind of forcing everything into the what's the word I'm looking for? Just creating, if you want to call it a mess, creating the chaos. I guess chaos is a good word. Creating the chaos that we have now in college football in particular. So anyway, last night, Clemson got a very nice road win against Virginia Tech up at Castle Coliseum. The place is hard to win, especially when Mike Young, Virginia Tech, when they're playing well, when they've got a good team. They were good at home going into this game, but Clemson took care of its business. Brad Brownell, Tigers head coach, talked to the media a few minutes after the game via Zoom.
Just really proud of the way our kids competed defensively. I thought we were very physical. Thought both teams were very good defensively, very physical in the game. Offensively, I thought we didn't play as well in the first half. Obviously, Chase being in foul trouble probably hurt us in terms of some rhythm. Virginia Tech does a really good job of guarding. They're hard to beat and play against. They're just so fundamentally sound on both ends. But just love the way our guys kept playing. Hunter Tyson bounced back after a tough shooting first half to shoot great in the second half. Chase came off the bench in the second half and played very well, and that's not easy to do. I really was going to play him some and wanted to play him a little bit more in the end of the first half. My staff kind of talked me out of it because we had a lead for a while. But when you sit that long, it's not easy to play well, and he did. And PJ was opportunistic with some big baskets. And then I just thought our defense held up, and we did a much better job, didn't turn it over. Offensively, we were just not very good in the first half and played much better and got a very good hard-fought win. So,
what do you feel like you did defensively to make it a shooting guy?
The first thing is it helps that Hunter Couture is not playing. I mean, he's an outstanding player and stretches the defense that way. And so it becomes a big body game. And Mutz is terrific. I mean, he can play all different kinds of ways, and he's playing point guard against Wake Forest some, and Basil can shoot the heck out of the ball and post it. We obviously recruited Lynn Kidd. We think Lynn's a really good player. It's just physical. There's not as much space. There's big bodies on top of you. You got to play really good one-on-one interior defense. I thought we did that. I'm anxious to watch the film in terms of defensive rebounding. We gave up a few of those that I'm disappointed in, but our first, initial defense was good. I thought we were set. We were in position. Maddox made some really good plays in the first half, but those aren't easy shots. I mean, he's making tough shots. And I just felt like we did a good job of guarding and being in position and contesting as much as we could.
Brad, the spark with the Godfrey game on the bench.
Yeah.
He didn't many threes.
No, I'm sure they were, shocked, and he's not a great 3-point shooter, but he can make one, and obviously made two. So, sometimes you need that in a game like this. And obviously he's wide open. And he's progressively been getting better. Like I actually started him against NC State, and he had 3 fouls in 5 minutes. Fouled 53 minutes and got put right back to the bench. So he's coming for us. We love his physicality, his athleticism. he actually can make some plays off the dribble. He can hook one in. He hooked one in tonight. And if he starts to make a shot like that, he becomes a very dangerous player. And so that's something we've worked really hard with him on. But that, you need that, right? In a game like this, on the road, you need somebody to come off the bench and play well. And those were big plays that ultimately, helped us win the game.
Back in the Penn State game, very similar situation at the end of regulation. You were up 3 and they hit the 3 with 5 seconds left to send it to overtime. But you're always going to rely on your defense, playing defense in those situations rather than fouling, aren't you?
No, not always. I kind of take it as it comes. We talked about fouling. We have fouled before. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We didn't end up doing it this time, and Chase did a good job of contesting and pushing it out pretty deep.
Did you think on that one, Brad?
We did. Oh, yeah.
Did you think he was anticipating a foul?
I don't know.
And that
Maybe.
affected his shot?
And my God, folks, the basketball guys needed to give us one after what happened to us last year in terms of so I think the basketball guys even that one out.
Coach, the Hokies went on a 9-0 run there, and then Godfrey fouls out, forcing to bring PJ in with 4 fouls with a little under 6 minutes left. He hits the big turnaround jumper with 4 minutes left to put you up 1. But how much trust do you have in him, in his maturity to be able to play down the stretch with 4 fouls?
Yeah, at 6 minutes to go, you gotta try to go, right? There's not a lot of time left. He's got to make some plays for us to win. He's an outstanding player, and he could foul out, but at the same time, it's, you got to play him with that much time. You got to let him go and see what happens. And obviously, if he's out there, we're trying to get him the ball when we can. I think we got it to him a couple times. I was mad at him on the 3 he took late. He could have rolled to the basket, I think, and got one going to the rim. But the shot he made was a big time shot. And he had another one in the middle of the lane that he missed. That's basketball. We got to make sure we play with him and through him when he's out there in situations like that.
All right, some comments. Brad Brownell following last night's win at Virginia Tech. That was a big time shot by PJ Hall. That turnaround jumper was big for them at that time. And the decision to whether to foul or not foul up 3 on the last possession. Lamont Paris, he fouls every time. He says there's no question he fouls every time. That's his philosophy. And Brownell's more of a, case by case situation. So last night they did not foul, and it did not come back to bite them. All right, we'll come back and give you the recruiting report. Then some comments from USC, the basketball coach Lamont Paris, who did meet with the media today after practice. At halftime, USC women up 52-20 on Auburn. 67%. That's 20 of 30 from the floor for the Gamecocks. 9 of 10 from the line. What more can you ask for? I wonder what kind of adjustments Dawn Staley's making at halftime. I'd say none at all. We'll be back after the break.
Hi, I'm Jim Corbett. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years. There's one thing I've learned about injury cases. It's you need the personal touch. You need the lawyer to get to know you and describe your damages. You don't want a case manager talking to an insurance company and then talking to you and then talking to maybe to a lawyer with limited experience at the last minute to try to settle a case. I talk to you. I find out what your case is about. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com. Jim at JimCorbettAttorney.com for your injury cases.
Major Downer here from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Boating season is just around the corner. To make sure that your boat is ready, check your registration sticker and ensure it's current. Find your registration card, make sure your life jackets are in good shape, and check your fire extinguisher as well. For more information on boating or boat titling questions, visit dnr.sc.gov/boating.
All right, recruiting report here on Sports Talk, brought to you by Seawells. Bad news. Bad news. No Seawells daily luncheon buffet tomorrow. They got a private party that we were not invited to again. So they will not be open tomorrow for the daily luncheon buffet. Back with it on Monday. And if you're going to have that party, that big old party that needs the best in the catering business, is obviously somebody does, because they've employed Seawells to have that party for them, then you want to call Seawells at 803-771-7385 or look them up online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. Just a few notes for you tonight. Woodland offensive tackle Cam Pringle cut his list from 10 to 6. Making the shorter list were USC, Clemson, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and NC State. 2024 offensive tackle Caleb Brewer, 6'6", 290 of, it looks like Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. You ever heard of that before? Wyomissing, like Wyoming and Issing, Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. Offered by the Gamecocks. USC was one of many P5 programs to offer Michigan transfer receiver Andrell Anthony Jr. once he hit the portal, John. 6'2", 190. He's actually from Lansing, Michigan, which, of course, is right up there at East Lansing, where Michigan State is. In 2 seasons, he caught 19 passes, 328 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And as I mentioned, got a bunch of offers that have already started rolling in for him since he put his name into the transfer portal, John. As a matter of fact, I'll catch you up on who some of those other contenders are for him at this point. We don't know where it's going to lead, but obviously Michigan State, the hometown team, they offered today. Arizona offered. Auburn offered. UCLA offered. Notre Dame offered. Purdue offered. West Virginia, Texas A&M, Penn State, California. Should I continue? Pittsburgh, Miami, Oklahoma. And he just announced yesterday that he was going into the portal, John. So obviously people think he's a good player, and they're going after him big time. Can South Carolina be a player for him? He wears number 1 there at Michigan. That's a pretty special number there at Michigan, I think. Didn't somebody wear number 1 who was like really, really good there back in the day? Also mentioned earlier, Gamecock defensive end Jordan Birch, he's transferring. And in basketball, 6'5" Austin Swartz, who has a Clemson offer, was offered by NC State. He was there last night to watch NC State take down Puke. All right, there you go with the recruiting report tonight, brought to you by Seawells. Here is USC men's basketball coach Lamont Paris. He held practice today over the Carolina Coliseum. Then afterwards, in gaggle form, he got together with some members of the media to talk about that tough overtime loss at Vanderbilt and the game coming up Saturday against Tennessee.
We did a lot of good things at Vanderbilt. Just a road conference game against a team that's hungry and wants to get it started off the right way. So we definitely got their best effort. We did a lot of good things on both sides of the ball, honestly, but I thought particularly offensively we generated some really good opportunities for ourselves. We capitalized on a lot of them. We left some out there that we didn't. Honestly, it came down to there were some very controllable defensive things that it surprised me that we didn't do consistently. A couple decisions, but a game we put ourselves in a great position to win, coming down the stretch, and just weren't able to make enough plays.
What have you seen from Tennessee and the challenge they present?
It's a good team. They're well coached. They're very tough and competitive. They don't have a lot of self-inflicted wounds. So you're going to have to do some stuff. You're going to have to create some things. You're going to have to take care of the ball. They force a lot of turnovers. A lot of it's with their physicality. They can pressure the ball from a variety of different guys in a variety of different ways. They can use length to pressure the ball. They can use quickness to pressure the ball. They have good size on the inside. So they're a pretty complete team. And so you just have to, again, stick to principles and compete at a super high level. I think if you don't do that, you might as well not show up on that day, and then get ready to play well.
You mentioned controllable defensive things. Kind of what are some of those things you saw in the Vanderbilt game that need to be cleaned up before Saturday?
Yeah, like I'm guarding someone and there's a screen off the ball. And I have a decision to go under that screen or to go over that screen. And based on personnel, we do it differently, on a different guy versus another guy. And so once you see it and recognize that the screen's coming, you got to make the decision to go over if that's what we're doing on that particular guy. And so amazingly enough, 92 times out of 100 is not enough times to do it. It's a decision. It's only a decision. And it might be the longer route. It might be there might be some physical contact involved with it. But for whatever reason, we decided too many times to do something opposite of what we had practiced.
This month long stretch where it's kind of an all ball all the time. Where do you feel like your team's improved over the last month, and where are some things you'd like to see improve as you go forward?
I think offensively it's probably been our biggest improvement. I think just in terms of the quality of shot that we're generating and the kind of movement that we're getting on offense, I think we've made drastic improvements in that. So that's been good to see. And then again, I think the biggest thing for us is just our ability to commit to doing the same thing over and over and over, as it's been prescribed by me as one of the things that helps us win this particular game or a lot of games in general. So we have a hard time doing that. The monotony gets to us. And, maybe some of that's generational. I think there's a small piece of that. But I think it's also maybe not having been asked to do that again. And again, 90% success rate on some of these things is not good enough because you can do it 100 out of 100.
Does that go back to kind of learning how to win? Like Vanderbilt, you guys had a lead late, couldn't hold on to it, and then overtime happened. But is that kind of a learning process with a new coaching staff these guys are going through?
Yeah, I think it's learning what's the most important in winning. I do. We've also had some close games that we won. But I think it's when you get the ball. We were up 8 at one point early in the game, and just knowing how to grind and continue to put pressure on versus it's like, we're up 8. I can take this shot. And if it goes in, we're up 11. And if it doesn't, we're still up 8. And there's still 30 minutes worth of play out here. So what's the worst that can happen? That mentality versus do it again and again. We generated a good shot. I believe that we're going to get a good shot if I move the ball. It's going to get back to me if I move the ball. And having belief in that and committing to doing things over and over again.
The growth offensively from an efficiency standpoint, what does this offense have to do to maybe continue to be a little bit more efficient? What have you liked from?
Yeah, I think some of it is just performance at that point. I think I look at that game. I looked at the Vanderbilt game again today, and as I look, particularly open the second half, the quality of shot you can't get 5 better opportunities in a row. You can't do it, and we didn't perform. So I think a lot of it comes down to that. A lot of it does. We ran a play for Hayden, and it was a duck in play. They go around late. He gets a layup and misses it. Right. There were plenty of those that we left on the board. So I think some of it's performance. I think the first step is generating quality shots by way of running a play or good offense. I think good offense is always a better way to do it. But then once you get yourself in a good situation, you have to perform by in terms of putting the ball in the basket.
All right, Lamont Parrish, USC men's basketball coach, be back in action on Saturday afternoon against the 8th-ranked Tennessee Vols, and they hit the road to go to Kentucky. All right, USC women up 52-20 at the break. Coastal Carolina down 5, 56-51, 5:54 to play in that ball game up at Appalachian State. And we update the golf up in out in Hawaii. Colin Morikawa, a 9 under 64, setting the pace. J.J. Spawn playing the 18th. He's 9 under par. We got 2 in at 7 under 66, Mackenzie Hughes and Tom Hoagie. At 6 under, Scott Stallings and Tony Finau, Hideki Matsuyama, Sahith Thigala. And as far as some of the locals that we keep an eye on, let's see. John Rahm, he's at 6. He's not local, but he's at 6. Jordan Spieth, he's not local, but he's at 4. And we don't have any locals.
We don't have any players from the state in this one. Justin Thomas is one under at the turn. I want to mention this story. It's not sports, but I just want to mention it. The oldest living American, or the oldest living person in America, died on Tuesday at the age of 115. Bessie Hendricks, living in Lake City, Iowa. She was born November 7th, 1907. Was married June 27th, 1930. And she leaves behind, let's see here. She leaves behind, where's it at here? She leaves behind, I think it was 42 great-grandchildren. Yeah. 3 children, 9 grandchildren, 28 great-grandchildren, and 42 great-great-grandchildren. Life well lived to get to 115. Will Sports Talk, will we make it to 115? Plan to. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.